All right. So you're here wondering why you're not where you want to be in life. Let me tell you, you don't know enough. Say you want to start a business, but you've been putting it off for the longest time. Or you want to start going to the gym, but you can't find the motivation. Why is this? You may ask. Well, in your subconscious brain, the barriers to doing these things are too high. In this video, I'm going to tell you about my journey overcoming these barriers. And then I'm going to tell you how you can do the same thing through knowledge acquisition, also known as learning. Now, just a disclaimer, proper structured learning is incredibly valuable and shouldn't be replaced by learning by yourself. But when I realized that I could learn anything I wanted through the internet, it changed my life. You have to understand that with the internet, we have the possibility to gain knowledge about any topic or skill you can dream of, and for free too. So this is something that you and me can leverage to better our lives together, to get to where we want to be in life. And that's what this video is about. So let me start out by telling you about my journey. You see, I used to be content with not knowing stuff. People would ask me questions about things, topics and stuff, and I would either answer, I don't know, simply, or I would joke around with the questions they asked me and make fun of them for asking that question. So I avoided the question by all means because I simply didn't have the knowledge. I put a blind eye to all the areas of life where I lacked knowledge. And why was this? Well, because ignorance is bliss and the unknown is scary. That's pretty universal for all of us. I didn't want to face the unknown at this time. I didn't want to admit to myself that I lacked a ton of knowledge, and my life was like this for the longest time. And then I became fed. That was kind of the point of no return for me, because it was a clear sign to me that I had lost all control. It was at this point where it dawned on me that my lack of knowledge was my greatest weakness. You see, I realized that if I didn't know how my body worked, how nutrition worked, how exercise worked, how would I ever become skinny and fit again? And if I didn't know how taxes work, how would I ever become rich? And if I didn't know how the job market worked, how would I ever get a job? If I didn't know how politics worked, how would I ever be able to form my own opinion? This was when I realized that knowledge truly is power in this world. You've probably heard this quote before, but in that moment, it struck me deeply. The depth and truth of those words really resonated with me like never before. In this period when I realized all this, I sat down and thought about it. And I guess you could say knowledge gives you the ability to navigate through life's ups and downs. It gives you the clear sight that is needed to avoid pitfalls and then leverage opportunities when they're presented to you. Knowledge also gives you the ability to contribute meaningfully to conversations and relationships in society. Knowledge expands your mind and creates a breeding ground for new ideas and innovation and curiosity. And at last, knowledge also allows you to act with insight and confidence throughout life so you can get more influence or more success or become self sufficient. Without knowledge, you're gonna lack in a lot of these areas. So, after coming to this realization that knowledge really is power, I started just putting one foot in front of the other, stepping out into the unknown and embracing what I had feared for so long. I wrote down all the things that I didn't know shit about, all the areas of my life that I had been ignoring totally. And then I started slowly acquiring knowledge through the internet. Because I came from a bad place, mostly physically, but also mentally, I started learning about health. And it was incredibly frustrating, actually, wanting to learn everything in one moment. But that's impossible. You can only learn so much in one day. But I picked sleep to start with, as I had horrible sleeping habits for 3 years at this point. And I just began learning. I started tearing down that wall of fear and ignorance to the unknown that I had built up for so many years. And it was really uncomfortable. In the beginning, I noticed my body giving me these natural urges of procrastination. I wanted to procrastinate all the time when I sat down and tried to learn. And this was very tough in the beginning. But as I identified my procrastination triggers, I understood that every time I felt this need to procrastinate, it was because I had met a new wall, a barrier that seemed difficult to break down for me. I was standing right in front of a wall of the unknown, the stuff I had ignored for so long, something I didn't understand yet, which my mind, of course, thought of as scary and didn't want to face hence the procrastination urges I got. And it became very clear to me at this time that every time I felt the urge to procrastinate, I was literally in the midst of acquiring new knowledge. And this exact thing carries over in all areas of life. Whenever you're uncomfortable, you're learning. When you're uncomfortable, your brain is trying to put everything you're experiencing into context, trying to navigate it, analyze it, creating these new connections in your brain right in that exact moment that you're feeling uncomfortable. When that became clear to me, I began fighting my procrastination urges actively. So whenever I got an urge, instead of picking up my phone and opening Instagram to doom scroll, I locked my phone away and just focused and locked in on the task that was in front of me. Because that wall or that thing that was in front of me would be the exact thing that was holding me back from becoming a better person, knowing more. And as soon as you get over that barrier, as soon as you break down that wall, then you have that knowledge and you have learned that, you know? As I became better and better at this, I excelled at studying and breaking down these walls too. It all became way easier. My learning became way smoother, and I've been able to study for hours on end. Today, I've become knowledgeable about everything that I was unknowledgeable about in the past when I started my journey. But the thing with knowledge is that the more you know, the more aware you'll become of how little you know. There are so many levels to knowledge, and when you expose yourself to these topics or skills, you become aware of the scale of things. You and I both know very little about this world. There are whole universes of stuff that we know nothing about. But don't let this demotivate you, because not learning anything is the worst thing that you can do. One thing that you have to know, a point that I want to get across in this video, is that what you don't know is what is holding you back. So when you don't regularly go out of your comfort zone, when you're not breaking down these walls that I talked about or these barriers, then your mind won't develop. So let me explain. Imagine you right now. Your mind has a fixed amount of knowledge, which is all the things that you've learned in the past in school or from experience or whatever. You'll continue to think in the same lines of thought forever, basically, if you don't subject your mind to new stimuli like experiences, conversations with interesting people, or learning, for example. And one reason as to why you're not taking action towards your goals right now is likely to be that your mind can't fathom how to get to the goals, if that makes sense. So, for example, your mind doesn't know what paperwork to do to start that business, or how to create that website, or what exercises to do in the gym, how many sets and reps and stuff to get that dream physique that you want. You can imagine your goal in your head as much as you want, but you can never achieve it since your mind doesn't. It can't compute what steps to take to get you to that goal. And that's where learning comes in. You have to understand that you cannot expect your brain's output to change if you don't supply your brain with new input. Your brain's output being the thoughts that you're thinking. If you don't supply your brain with new stimuli, then you'll be thinking the same thoughts and you'll never get any closer to actually taking action towards your goal, if this makes sense. The problem that you have right now won't change unless you subject yourself to knowledge or stimuli that's relevant to where you want to get in life. I hope that makes sense. There are many types of stimuli or input that you can supply your brain with to change your output, your thoughts. Learning through the internet is simply a very effective and targeted type of input, which is easy for you to obtain and easy to supply your brain with. Basically, for every new thing you learn, the path to achieving your goal will become more and more clear. Learning can be the tool that you need to overcome the mental barriers that are holding you back from taking actions towards your goal. If you don't supply your brain with new relevant input or change the current input into something that's more relevant to your goal, then you can't expect your brain to output thoughts that will put you somewhere closer to your goal. If you don't change something now, you will be stuck with your problems forever. The things that are holding you back. You won't ever achieve your goal. And that's where learning is a great tool to overcome this. All right, so let me use myself as an example of how this mindset has worked for me. Acquiring knowledge about health has allowed me to take control of my own health and become healthier than ever today. On top of that, I've learned how taxes work now. I've also learned about all the paperwork required to run a business, all the practical stuff, all the stuff that I didn't know anything about, which has allowed me to, one, take control of my personal finances with the tax stuff, and then also start my own business. And currently, I'm learning about investing and stocks so I can hopefully make some educated financial choices in the future. I've also learned a lot about a ton of other things that have helped me level up in many ways, but those aren't relevant to this video. But the main point is that learning through the internet has been a very powerful tool for me in shaping myself towards becoming the person that I want to be, that can reach the goals that I want to reach. And today I want to share that with you. I truly believe that everyone learns best in slightly different ways. There's no universal way of learning, so to speak. So my way isn't necessarily the best way for you. You gotta tweak my recommendations to something that fits you better. But first, before showing you what I do to learn through the internet, I want to give you some key points to preface this with. So first of all, within many areas of knowledge or skill, there is a fixed amount of knowledge. Emphasis on many. Some areas contain more knowledge than others and some less. Some have a still growing amount of knowledge. Take AI, for example, whereas other areas have a close to stagnant amount of knowledge. That could be coal mining, for example. You also have to think of learning like this. As you learn more and more small parts of whatever topic or skill you're interested in, each new thing that you learn will constitute a certain per mil or percentage of the total topic or skill. So as you learn more things, you will basically accumulate that knowledge, and soon enough you'll be halfway through mastering that skill or knowing everything about that topic. On top of that, knowledge typically has a carryover effect. So many things that you learn in one area of knowledge can maybe also apply to another one, or just life generally. So that's pretty nice to know when you're unmotivated to learn. There is a saying that goes that it's very likely that someone else in another place and another time has gone through exactly the same experience or had exactly the same thought as you have. Meaning that if you're curious about something, then there's a high probability that another person on this earth before you has also been curious about exactly the same thing. And maybe, if you're lucky, acted upon that curiosity. So because of the internet, we now have this huge knowledge base about almost everything in our world. And a lot of this is free. But if you put your mind to it, and if you're willing to spend the time and energy to research whatever topic or skill that you're interested in, then you can become very wise on that topic or eventually master that skill. Now, if you're motivated to start learning, I want to stress another element to learning that is going to be relevant every time that you want to acquire new knowledge. It's essential that you choose how deep you want your knowledge to go. You see, learning takes time, and diving deep into a topic or skill is a commitment to building up that knowledge from the ground up. And that can take a long time and be very exhausting. Also, with knowledge and skill acquisition, especially through the internet done on computers like this, it's easy to get tunnel visioned and become hyper focused on learning a certain thing, which can remove your focus from your original goal or direction in life, and also resulting in you taking less action in real life towards your goal. And that's why before you start researching online, it's essential that you decide whether or not it's necessary to master a certain topic or skill. Especially, you have to look at it in the light of what purpose the knowledge that you will gain will serve you in the future. What are you going to use it for? Yeah. So, my steps for learning through the internet. Step number 1, pick something you want to learn. May it be anything that can help you reach your goal, anything that can get you in the direction of where you want to be in life. You choose. Number 2, establish your why. You got to think about, why do you want to learn this and what's the purpose of acquiring this knowledge. This will help you stay motivated in learning and ensure that the learning is effective and relevant to whatever you want to achieve. Number 3, establish the depth of the knowledge, what I talked about earlier. So from your why, you have to establish how deep you want to dive into this topic or skill. Think about, what are you going to do with the knowledge? And then how deep are you going to go? You have to make it targeted somehow so you don't waste time. So how deep you go, of course, has to be relative to your existing knowledge about this topic or skill and relative to the depth of the topic or skill. So you have to choose that. Number 4, you should document your learning. Writing down your findings reinforces learning by making you process the information that you're consuming twice. So you have to read it and you have to write it, as well as giving you the ability to save whatever you learn for the future. The medium that you use to write down your findings is the part that can vary from person to person. Personally, I use Notion to create pages that contain my notes and findings, and I can structure it and organize it to make it easy for me to navigate in later. But to some people, taking physical notes might be better, and to others, writing down key points in Google Docs or something will do the trick. This is all personal preference, so that's up to you. Number 5, find trusted sources of information online. What I mean by sources of information is it could be individual websites, whole web pages, YouTube videos, or YouTube channels if you want, social media content or influencers, online learning platforms. Could also be Google Scholar or PubMed papers, ebooks and podcasts, and so much more. Within most areas of knowledge or skill, you'll likely run into the same web pages when searching around for answers to your questions. So a good practice is to determine which web pages are trustworthy and provide factual and reliable information in the start of your research, so that you can effectively and easily scour through the internet for answers to your questions. So you don't have to look at every single source of information and then determine whether you trust them or not, whether it's fact or fiction. What determines if the source is useful and trustworthy kind of depends on the topic or skill that you're learning in. But either way, what you generally want to look into when looking for useful and trustworthy sources will be 1, the author or the publisher. Is the author or publisher an expert or affiliated with a trusted institution? Are they biased? How do they make money? Do they have any conflicts of interests that might skew the information that you're consuming or using to learn? And then 2, the date of the information that you're using. If you want to learn something in an area of knowledge that's steadily growing, say AI, for example, finding recently published sources will be key. But say you want to learn about something like gemstones. Here, the date of publishment isn't really that important to the usefulness of the source, because there's a stagnant amount of knowledge in that area. And then 3, of course, the use of citations or references. This is also key. Does the source provide evidence or cite credible studies? If it doesn't, then you might want to look elsewhere. Generally, you want proper sources to the information that you're using, or proper references is what I'm trying to say. Step number 6, be critical of the sources that you use. So whilst there's a ton of useful information on the internet, then there's also a lot of bullshit. You have to be critical of what you read and take for fact. You have to be skeptical of the information that lacks evidence or references. You also have to be skeptical of information that makes extraordinary claims or seems overly biased. I recommend cross-referencing multiple sources to confirm the accuracy of what you're learning. So see if other web pages also agree with your findings. And then step number 7 is just learn. Scour the internet for information, ask questions, and answer them, and then just repeat that. You just have to sit down and start learning. Sit down with your notebook or Notion or Google Docs or whatever. For me, I like to start out by consuming information to get a general understanding of the topic or skill that I'm trying to learn. So this could be as simple as watching a couple of YouTube videos and then going down into my note-taking medium and asking myself questions like, what is the topic, or what's the purpose of it, plus some topic or skill relevant sub-questions, and answering these just to cement this general understanding of the topic or skill, after which I dive in deeper into whatever area of that topic or skill is most relevant to me right now. And yeah, a general tip here is just expanding your knowledge by being curious. So ask yourself questions and find answers to those questions, and create more questions and answer them all. And if you find yourself stuck, then consume more information to get some perspective on your topic or skill that you're trying to learn. If you want to learn from the roots and up, like master the topic or skill, then of course you have to find the root of the topic or skill, learn all the principles and the fundamentals of the topic or skill first, and then build on top of that knowledge with whatever else the topic or skill contains. Tip number 8, join communities and start discussions and test your knowledge. A great way to test your newfound knowledge is to join communities on the internet or in real life, of course. So platforms like Reddit is great for this. Discord also, or other specialized forums online. These are great platforms that have communities where you can ask questions and exchange ideas and learn from other people's knowledge within your topic or skill that you're trying to learn. Interacting with others can help you clarify your doubts and expose you to different perspectives, which can make the learning process also a ton more enjoyable. And you can see whether what you learned is actually fact or fiction, you know? So here's what I want you to do now. You have to choose one thing that you've been avoiding for a long time, one thing that you lack knowledge about, and then just spend 30 minutes today learning about it. Promise me to do that. Now you have to. Then you got to comment below on what you learned and why you learned it. And then you can look through the other comments to be inspired. So please use this video for motivation to learn about the things that you lack knowledge about. Just learn everything and level up. Go chase your dreams, man. The world is yours, and leveraging learning through the internet is a great way to overcome the barriers that might be holding you back right now. And this is of course just one way of getting closer to where you want to be in life. But learning through the internet is a great tool, a valuable tool, and it's worked great for me. If you found value in my video, then you can consider subscribing to my channel or liking this video. I think that will help a ton. I want to make more videos like this, providing perspective and value so we can all level up and become the best versions of ourselves. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.